Hey guys, welcome to Zach Mac Fishing. A little bit different type of video today. I've had a lot of you ask me specifically what kind of equipment I use. Most of you know that I'm an urban fisherman. My area, we've got about 300,000 people in the county, about 260,000 people in the city, and I do a lot of fishing in the city. And that presents a unique set of challenges. The fish in town are much more wary of just about any presentation you throw at them, and partly that's because of the pressure on the lakes. You know, we already had a lot of pressure on our lakes just because we're a community that really loves to fish. But then when COVID came around, and I apologize for the dogs barking, but the neighbor's dog. But anyway, when COVID came around, the pressure was just amplified. You know, I think that this video will probably help some of you who are new to urban fishing. Urban fish tend to be scared. Here in Lubbock, they've seen just about every presentation you can think of, and they are scared of big profile baits. And not even big profile baits, but I'm saying like average profile baits. So if you're in Lubbock, or if you're in any urban area where you're having trouble catching predator fish, be they crappie, be they bass, even walleye, if walleye are an option in your area, what you need to do is downsize. I'm going to show you my #1 rig that I use for just about everything. I've caught crappie, bass, carp, and catfish all on this rig. So let's start out with the rod. These are about $39 at Cabela's. I'm sure you can get them at Bass Pro too. This is a Crappie Max rod, and it's about a 4'6" rod. They make it in a 7-foot, I think, or a 6'6". But I do a lot of really tight spaces, which if you fish in an urban area, you're gonna do. I do a lot of tight spaces, and I do a lot of docks. So I need something that I can put in tight spaces, which is why I chose a shorter rod. I'm gonna show you, hopefully you can see the name on it. All right. Anytime you buy a rod, and the thing that I like about this is ultra light. It's almost featherweight. Super sensitive, super flexible. But anytime you buy a rod, you wanna look at the specs on that rod. Okay, because if I turn this rod over right here and I read on it, it's going to tell me exactly what type of, what test pound line I can use. It's going to tell me what lure weights, you know, anywhere. I think this one is from 1/64 to 1/8 ounce lure. That's what the rod's designed to handle. This will literally tell you what your setup is, and it's extremely important that you pay attention to that on any new rod you buy. Very, very flexible. You know, if you've seen any of my videos, you've seen that bend into a U a couple of times with bigger fish. So step one, if you are in Lubbock, or if you're in any sort of an urban area where the fish are under a lot of pressure and you're having a hard time hooking up, you need to get an ultra light rod. And I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I can tell you I have been amazed with what I've been able to do with this Crappie Max. So that's why I'm telling you it's a good rod. After we've talked about the rod, the next thing we gotta do is we gotta talk about line. If you're using an ultralight rod like this, you gotta have ultralight line. You can't use an ultralight rod and heavy line, just won't work. You got to use line that complements the rod. What I use is 4-pound test line, and you can get as small as 2-pound test line, although that would really be a delicate type of fishing. I just use this Bass Pro Tourney Tough 4-pound line. The only thing I'm going to say is that next time around, I'm going to go with High Viz. I don't know if it'll be the same brand, but the mistake I made was not realizing that when you use such thin line as 4 pounds, it's hard to see it, especially in our stained waters. So I do recommend, learn from my mistake, go High Viz on your line. But For an ultralight setup like a Crappie Max, you want to use, you know, and again, the rod will tell you that it only goes up to 6-pound line. That's the heaviest they recommend, anywhere from 2 to 6 pound line. So 4 is a good middle number there. All right. So that is our line. Now let's talk about the lure. I love hair jigs, folks. If you're in an area where you cannot get a bite from a predator fish, there is nothing better on this planet than a hair jig, because I'm going to show y'all. Let's see if I can get this one. This one's kind of stuck on some plastic here, but now this is not the size that I'm going to start out with, but it does demonstrate my point. This is a hair jig, folks. You see that? Let's see if I can, yeah. This part right here acts as your weight, where you tie the line onto, but how this is behaving in the wind right here, how this is behaving in the wind is exactly how it's going to behave in the water. You can leave that still, and if you've got any current at all, any current, it's going to flutter this and it's going to poof it out. You can dead stick this just about, and it's going to have enough action to just drive a crappie crazy. So, my dog Bella, y'all see her? She's doing a little cameo for us. Say hi to the folks, Bella. So, this is your key to tough fishing. It's called a hair jig, okay? Now, what I recommend using, now, we're in summertime, so I go with a little bit bigger hair jig. I go with a 1/32 ounce. And I love these Cabela's Pro Light jigs. This is a 1/32 ounce. I'll show you guys that. Check that out. And now, pink is a great color, but I've also used brown. I've used yellow. I have used yellow and black combo. I have used, I think, almost every color that they offer in this Cabela's Pro Light jig, and I've caught fish on it. It's just phenomenal. And it's that hair jig, okay? So, this is what one looks like. Let me check on my dog. Bella? Okay. Making sure she's okay. This is what one looks like that's a little beat up. This one's caught some fish for me this weekend, so it's a little beat up. But they're still a durable jig. But this is brown. Can y'all see that? That's a brown one right there. Trying to give you the best. Yeah, there you go. So brown's a phenomenal color. Okay? 1/32 ounce. You know? And the cool thing about 1/32 ounce is it's heavy enough you can cast it. You know, you can sit there and you can do this little number in the water column where you're just dancing that thing around. You know? And now in the water column, it's going to do this, okay? In the water column, it's going to stay horizontal for you. It's going to stay just exactly like that in the water column. And just kind of go around there. So, and this will flutter, which makes for a great presentation. So, summertime, urban fishing, having a hard time catching a fish, here's what you want to do. Ultralight rod, such as a Crappie Max, highly recommended. Lightweight 4-pound test line. 1/32 ounce hair jig. Again, the Cabela Pro Light's what I recommend, but pick whatever hair jig you want. That's your setup. That's what's going to catch you fish. But we got to use the secret sauce. Okay, and attractants are important, and some folks like to use spray-on attractants. I love crappie nibbles. Cannot say enough good stuff about this. Okay? These crappie nibbles have absolutely unequivocally been the key to a lot of my success. These happen to be pink. I've also used yellow. I've even used some that have glitter in them. But crappie nibbles, the Berkeley brand, that's what you want. All right, and the way that we use those is we take a crappie nibble You can see where this one's got a little piece of one left. You take a crappie nibble and you just slide it onto your hook. Okay, you just slide it onto this hook. And you go right past the barb there. Just make sure the nibble's resting past the barb, that way it doesn't get in the way of the barb hooking the fish. These things not only produce a scent, they'll actually leave a scent cloud in the water the longer they're in the water. So they can be absolutely super effective. They are absolutely super effective. That is the setup to catch either your first fish. That's a setup for your kid to catch their first fish. That's a setup to use any time of the year. That's a setup to use in high pressure areas, period. This will catch a bluegill. And if you have your drag set correctly, if you have your drag set loose, it'll also catch a 4-pound largemouth bass, no problem, okay? So remember to keep your drag set to where you should be able, on your drag, which is this part right here, and it's just like, you know, you can go right, if you're looking at this, I just move that righty-tighty, you know, lefty-loosey, loosen up the drag. You should be able to pull your line out with your hand with some resistance, okay? That way, if a big fish grabs a hold, they'll be able to take the line, but there'll be enough resistance to tire the fish out so that they don't spool you. Drag is critically important if you're gonna ultralight fish. I want you to start out with this. We start out ultralight first, start out with the Crappie Max first, okay? Start out with that first with the 1/32 ounce hair jig. Start out with that first. You know, 99.9% of the time, I've only got like an hour or two at a time, and I use this. If I could only use one thing all the time, it would be this, I promise you. And you know, take a look at my videos, you'll see why. It's just really effective, so. I appreciate it, guys. Finally got myself a tripod, so you'll be seeing a little bit more of me. I won't always be behind the camera, so this was fun. I've had a couple of subscribers that wanted me to just do a video and break it down. And this is it. This is what I do. And this is applicable to not just my city, but any urban, high pressure area where you know there are fish, but they're not biting. Works for crappie, works for bass, works for sunfish. Don't have any walleye here in town, but I'm sure it would work for walleye. So, take care, tight lines, God bless. Oh, one more thing, if y'all could do me a favor and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this channel, I would appreciate it.